Emma Baker stared at her phone, her hands trembling as she typed the desperate message. James, I hate to ask again, but I need $40 for Lily's formula. I get paid Friday. I swear I'll pay you back. She hit send before she could change her mind, then slumped against her threadbare couch, exhaustion washing over her. The baby monitor crackled with the soft sounds of her 6-month-old daughter's breathing. Emma had exactly $2.13 in her checking account, no formula, and had already watered down the last bottle more than she should have. The text was humiliating, but her pride meant nothing compared to her daughter's hunger. 3 miles away, in the penthouse office of Meridian Technologies, Alexander Reed's phone buzzed. The 42-year-old CEO glanced at the notification, expecting another update from his executive team about the pending merger. Instead, he found himself staring at a message clearly not meant for him. Alexander frowned, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. He rarely used this personal number, a select few even had it. This was obviously a wrong number. Yet, something about the raw desperation in those few lines made him pause before dismissing it. Emma's phone pinged with a response that made her heart stop. I think you have the wrong number. I'm not James. Horror washed over her as she checked the number. She had mistyped the last digit of her brother's new phone number. I'm so sorry, she typed back quickly. Please ignore that. Wrong number. She tossed her phone aside, mortification burning through her exhaustion. Another failure in a long string of them. Alexander couldn't explain why he didn't simply acknowledge her apology and move on. Perhaps it was the mention of a baby, or maybe it was just a welcome distraction from the cutthroat negotiations that had consumed his life for months. Is your baby going to be okay? He typed, surprising himself. When Emma saw the response, she blinked in confusion. Why would a stranger care? Her first instinct was caution. She'd heard plenty of stories about predators online, but exhaustion and desperation weakened her usual defenses. We'll manage, she replied curtly. Sorry to bother you. I could help, came the immediate response. No strings attached. Emma snorted. In her experience, there were always strings. Thanks, but I don't take money from strangers, she wrote back. Smart policy, Alexander replied. He hesitated, then added, I'm Alex. Now I'm not a stranger. What formula does your baby need? Emma stared at the message, torn between suspicion and a flicker of hope. Why would you help someone you don't know? In his office, Alexander looked out over the city skyline. Why, indeed? His assistant would say he was procrastinating on reviewing the merger documents. His ex-wife would say he was having another impulsive moment. Both would be partially right. Let's just say I've been fortunate, and I remember when I wasn't, he replied. It wasn't the whole truth, but it wasn't a lie either. Emma's exhaustion clouded her judgment. She hadn't slept more than 3 consecutive hours in days. The formula was Family Gentles. Lily had colic, and it was the only brand that didn't make her scream for hours. It was also the most expensive one on the shelf. I don't feel right about this, she typed. What's your Venmo? Alexander asked. Emma hesitated, then sent her username. What did she have to lose? She could always block this person if things got weird. Seconds later, her phone buzzed with a notification. Emma gasped. This Alex hadn't sent $40. He'd sent $400. This is too much, she typed frantically. I can't accept this. Consider it an advance for the next few months, Alexander replied. One less thing to worry about. Tears sprang to Emma's eyes, blurring her vision. She hadn't cried when she'd been laid off from the accounting firm 2 months ago. She hadn't cried when James, her only remaining family, had moved across the country for work, leaving her without her safety net. She hadn't even cried when her landlord had slipped the late notice under her door yesterday. But this unexpected kindness from a complete stranger broke something loose inside her. Thank you, she typed simply, unable to find words adequate for her gratitude. You're welcome, Emma, Alexander replied. Take care of Lily. It wasn't until hours later, as Emma returned from the store with formula and groceries, that she realized something that made her blood run cold. She had never mentioned her daughter's name to this stranger. The next morning, Emma woke to another message from the mysterious Alex. Hope you and Lily had a better night. I have a proposition for you. Emma's guard immediately went up. Here it comes, she thought bitterly, the strings. What kind of proposition? She asked wearily. Professional, not personal, came the swift reply. I run a company called Meridian Technologies. We need someone with accounting skills for a short-term project. Your brother James mentioned you were looking for work. Emma nearly dropped her phone. How do you know my brother? How do you know I'm an accountant? Her heart raced as she checked her social media profiles, all set to private. Who is this person? I apologize for the intrusion, Alexander wrote. After our conversation, I was curious. Your number is very similar to James Connor's, who works in my HR department. When I mentioned the wrong number text to him this morning, he realized who you must be. He speaks very highly of your accounting skills. Emma sank onto her couch, relief and weariness battling for dominance. It was a reasonable explanation, but still unsettling. So, this was all just a coincidence. Completely, Alexander confirmed, but perhaps a fortunate one for both of us. We genuinely need help with a project reconciling some accounts before a merger. It's a 3-month contract with the possibility of permanent placement. Would you be interested in interviewing? Emma's mind raced. It seemed too perfect, too convenient. Yet, her brother did indeed work in HR at some tech company. She'd never paid much attention to the details. She'd been sending out resumes for weeks with no response. Could she really afford to turn down this opportunity out of suspicion? I'd be interested in hearing more, she finally replied cautiously, but I'd need flexibility. I have Lily. We offer on-site childcare for employees, Alexander wrote back immediately. And flexible working hours. Come in tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll tell reception to expect you. As Emma prepared Lily's morning bottle, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about this situation wasn't adding up. The coincidence seemed too perfect, the timing too convenient. But with her savings depleted and rent due, did she really have the luxury of looking this gift horse in the mouth? What she didn't know was that across town, Alexander Reed was having second thoughts about his impulsive decision, wondering if he'd overstepped boundaries in a way that would come back to haunt them both. The Meridian Technologies headquarters loomed above Emma like a gleaming monolith of glass and steel. She adjusted Lily's carrier on her arm, straightened her only professional blazer, thrifted but still presentable, and pushed through the revolving doors. The security guard at the front desk smiled as she approached. Emma Baker, he asked before she could speak. At her surprised nod, he continued, Mr. Reed's office is on the top floor. Martha will meet you at the elevator. The smooth efficiency with which she was escorted through the building only heightened Emma's sense of unreality. This wasn't how job interviews usually went, especially not for temporary accounting positions. An elegant woman in her 50s met her as promised and led her not to a conference room or HR office, but directly to a corner suite with views that made Emma momentarily forget her anxiety. He'll be with you shortly, Martha said, gesturing to a sitting area. Can I get you anything? Coffee, water? Water would be nice. Thank you, Emma replied, settling Lily's carrier on the soft leather couch beside her. The baby was mercifully asleep, exhausted from the morning's preparations. Emma used the moment alone to take in her surroundings. The office was surprisingly warm for a CEO's lair. Bookshelves lined one wall, and family photos dotted the desk. A guitar stood in one corner, incongruous against the backdrop of corporate success. She looks peaceful, came a deep voice from the doorway. Emma turned to find a tall man watching her with keen interest. His expensive suit couldn't hide the athletic build beneath, and laugh lines around his eyes softened what might otherwise have been an intimidating presence. This, she realized with a jolt, was Alexander Reed, the stranger who had sent her $400 for baby formula. "Mr. Reed," she said, standing quickly. "Thank you for seeing me." "Alex, please," he corrected, moving forward to shake her hand. His grip was firm but brief. "And thank you for coming in on such short notice." There was an awkward pause as they both seemed to acknowledge the strange circumstances that had brought them together. "I should explain yesterday's texts," he said finally, taking a seat across from her. "I don't make a habit of sending money to wrong numbers," he continued, "and I don't make a habit of accepting it," Emma countered, finding her voice. "I'm still not entirely comfortable with how this all happened." Alex nodded, respecting her directness. "Fair enough. The truth is, your message came at a particular moment. Yesterday was the anniversary of my daughter's death." Emma's breath caught. "I'm so sorry." "Charlotte would have been 8, he continued, his eyes drifting to Lily. "Leukemia. She fought for 3 years." Emma instinctively reached for Lily's carrier, a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed. "When I got your text about needing formula," Alex said, "it felt like, I don't know, a chance to help someone the way I couldn't help her." The explanation disarmed Emma. The suspicion she'd been nursing, that this was some elaborate setup or, worse, that he expected something inappropriate in return for his help, began to dissolve. "And the job?" she asked cautiously. "Completely legitimate," he assured her. "The connection with your brother was coincidental. But when I mentioned the wrong number story to the HR team this morning, James recognized the situation immediately. He's been worried about you." Emma felt a flush of embarrassment. "James doesn't know how bad things got. I didn't want him to worry when he's just getting established himself." "Family pride," Alex noted with understanding. "I know something about that, too." He handed her a folder. "These are the details of the position. 3 months, full benefits, competitive salary. We're preparing for a merger and need someone to reconcile some discrepancies in our financial records." Emma scanned the documents, her accounting background immediately spotting the considerable salary, more than she'd made at her previous job. "This is very generous for a temporary position." "We pay for quality," Alex replied simply. "James showed me your resume, 2 years at Deloitte, top of your class at Georgetown. You're overqualified, if anything." Martha returned with water and coffee, providing Emma a moment to collect her thoughts. The job was real. The salary would solve her immediate financial crisis. But something still nagged at her. "Why didn't you just tell me who you were from the beginning?" she asked after Martha left. Alex sipped his coffee, considering. "Would you have believed me? Hi, I'm a CEO. Let me help you." "Probably not," Emma admitted. "And then there's the fact that this is rather unorthodox," he added. "The board would have questions about me personally reaching out to a candidate." Lily stirred in her carrier, making small noises that Emma recognized as the prelude to a full-blown hunger cry. With practiced movements, she lifted the baby and reached for the diaper bag. "May I?" Alex asked, gesturing to a door near his desk. "There's a small kitchenette through there, more private." Emma nodded gratefully and slipped into what turned out to be a well-appointed private break room. As she prepared Lily's bottle, her mind raced through her options. The job seemed legitimate. The company was reputable, she'd looked it up on her phone during the subway ride. And yet, the circumstances remained strange enough to give her pause. When she returned, Alex was on the phone, his voice low and tense. "I don't care what Patterson thinks. We're not selling that division. Because I gave my word to those employees, that's why." He caught sight of Emma and quickly ended the call. "Sorry about that. Merger negotiations are always tense." Emma settled back on the couch with Lily in her arms. "It sounds complicated." Business usually is, he replied, watching as she fed the baby. You're good with her. I had to be, Emma said softly. Her father left when he found out I was pregnant. It's just been us. Alex's expression darkened momentarily. His loss, he said simply. The conversation shifted to the specifics of the job, hours, responsibilities, the project timeline. Emma found herself relaxing as they discussed familiar accounting territory. This, at least, made sense to her. One last thing, Alex said as their meeting drew to a close. The on-site daycare is excellent, but it currently has a waiting list. Until a spot opens for Lily, would you be comfortable working from my private office suite? There's a small conference room you could use, and Lily would be welcome. The offer took Emma by surprise. That's unusually accommodating. I told you we need your skills, Alex replied, though something in his expression suggested there was more to it. And the work needs to be kept confidential, given the sensitive nature of the merger. As if on cue, Martha appeared at the door. Mr. Reed, your 10:30 is waiting. Alex stood, extending his hand again. So, Emma Baker, do we have a deal? Emma hesitated only briefly before taking his hand. Yes. Thank you for the opportunity. Perfect. Martha will help you with the paperwork. You can start Monday. He paused at the door. And Emma, the $400 was a gift, not an advance. No need to pay it back. Before she could protest, he was gone, leaving Emma with the distinct impression that her life had just changed course in ways she couldn't yet imagine. What she didn't see was Alex stopping in the hallway, removing a photo from his wallet, a woman holding a baby girl, and staring at it with a complex mixture of emotions before tucking it away and straightening his shoulders to meet his next appointment. 3 weeks into her contract at Meridian Technologies, Emma had settled into a routine that still felt surreal. Each morning, she and Lily would take the elevator to the top floor, where Martha would greet them with a warm smile and often a cup of coffee for Emma. The small conference room adjacent to Alex's office had been transformed into a functional workspace, complete with a portable crib for Lily's naps. The financial reconciliation project was challenging but engaging, exactly the kind of work Emma had excelled at before Lily's birth had derailed her career plans. The discrepancies she'd been hired to investigate were subtle but significant, consistent patterns of small financial aberrations that individually meant little but collectively suggested something more troubling. These numbers don't add up, Emma murmured to herself, comparing spreadsheets on her dual monitors. Lily babbled happily from her playmat on the floor, entertained by the colorful toys Martha had mysteriously produced on Emma's second day. A soft knock interrupted her concentration. Alex stood at the door, his tie loosened, looking more tired than she'd seen him before. Making progress, he asked, entering and immediately crouching down to greet Lily, who squealed in delight at the attention. The baby had grown inexplicably attached to Alex, reaching for him whenever he appeared. Emma replied, watching their interaction with a mixture of warmth and caution. But I found something concerning in the Thompson acquisition accounts. Alex's focus shifted immediately. Show me. Emma pulled up the relevant files, explaining the pattern she'd discovered. These variances are too consistent to be accidental. Someone's been systematically siphoning small amounts from multiple accounts, then covering their tracks with adjusted entries. Alex's expression darkened as he studied the screen. How much are we talking about? About $3 million over the past 18 months, Emma said quietly. You're sure? It's why you hired me, isn't it? She countered. To find exactly this kind of thing. A flicker of something, guilt, concern, crossed Alex's face. Yes, of course. He straightened, running a hand through his hair. I need you to prepare a complete report. Don't share this with anyone else yet. Not even James. Not even your CFO? Emma asked, surprised. Alex's jaw tightened. Especially not Vince. Not until we know more. After he left, Emma sat back, troubled by the exchange. Why would the CEO want to keep potential embezzlement from his chief financial officer? No, she muttered to herself. Don't go creating conspiracies. But the seed of doubt had been planted. That evening, after putting Lily to bed in their now considerably more comfortable apartment, thanks to her Meridian salary, Emma began her own investigation. By midnight, she had compiled a disturbing timeline. The financial discrepancies had begun shortly after Vincent Harmon had been appointed CFO, following the unexpected resignation of his predecessor. The next morning, Emma arrived earlier than usual, determined to speak with Alex before the day's meetings began. She found his office dark, which was unusual. He typically arrived before everyone else. A text notification lit up her phone: emergency board meeting. Use the time to finish your report. We'll talk later. The vague message did nothing to ease Emma's growing unease. She settled Lily in her play area and dove back into the financial records, expanding her search parameters. By lunchtime, her suspicions had solidified into certainty. Someone high up in Meridian was systematically embezzling funds, and the pattern suggested intimate knowledge of the company's financial oversight systems. Emma was so engrossed in her work that she didn't notice Vincent Harmon until he was standing in her doorway, his imposing figure blocking the light. "Ms. Baker," he said smoothly. "Hard at work, I see." Emma instinctively minimized her screen. "Mr. Harmon, can I help you?" The CFO's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I understand you've been working on some special project for Alex. Curious that he didn't involve the finance department." "Just some reconciliation for the merger," Emma replied vaguely, her heart racing. "Nothing exciting." Vincent stepped further into the room, glancing at Lily, who watched him with solemn eyes. "Convenient arrangement you have here, private office, bringing your child to work. Alex must think very highly of your skills." The insinuation was clear and made Emma's cheeks burn with indignation. "Mr. Reed values efficiency," she said stiffly, "and I found several issues that needed addressing." "I'm sure you have," Vincent replied, his tone making it clear he believed something entirely different was going on. "Just remember, Ms. Baker, Meridian was doing fine before you arrived, and it will continue long after your temporary position ends." After he left, Emma sat shaking, both angry and frightened. The confrontation confirmed her suspicions that Vincent saw her as a threat. But it also suggested something worse, that others in the company might perceive her special arrangement with Alex as something inappropriate. She was still processing the encounter when her phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Emma Baker speaking," she answered professionally. "Ms. Baker, this is Detective Russo with the Financial Crimes Division." The woman's voice was brisk and official. "I understand you're currently employed at Meridian Technologies." Emma's blood ran cold. "Yes, that's correct. We're investigating some irregularities in Meridian's accounts. I'd like to ask you a few questions." I'm not sure what I can tell you," Emma stammered, looking anxiously toward Lily. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation at our office," the detective suggested. "This afternoon, if possible." By the time Alex finally returned from his meeting at 3 o'clock, Emma was nearly frantic. She immediately pulled him into his office, closing the door. "The police called me," she blurted out. "Financial Crimes Division. They want me to come in for questioning, and Vincent Harmon was here acting suspicious about what I'm working on." Alex's face paled. "Damn it," he muttered. "This is happening faster than I expected." He paced the length of his office, then turned to her with unexpected intensity. "Emma, I need to tell you something, and I need you to trust me." "Trust you?" she echoed incredulously. "Alex, what's going on? Am I being set up for something?" "No," he said firmly. "The opposite. I need to show you something." He unlocked a drawer in his desk and pulled out a thick file. "I haven't been entirely honest with you about why I hired you." Emma felt the floor shift beneath her. "What do you mean?" You weren't randomly assigned to me through a wrong number, Alex said, his voice low and urgent. I've been investigating internal theft at Meridian for months. We needed someone from outside the company, someone with no connections to the executive team. So you, targeted me? Emma felt sick. Your brother mentioned you months ago, your skills, your situation. When we needed someone trustworthy, I remembered. Alex looked genuinely regretful. The wrong number text was genuine. That part was coincidence. But once I realized who you were, I saw an opportunity. You manipulated me, Emma whispered, thinking of Lily, of how vulnerable they had been. I gave you a legitimate job that you're excellent at, Alex countered. Yes, I had ulterior motives for hiring you, but not the kind you're thinking. I'm working with the FBI on this, Emma. Vincent Harmon isn't just embezzling. He's laundering money through our international divisions. Emma sank into a chair, her mind racing. The detective who called, is she legitimate? Yes, Alex confirmed. But you need to be careful what you tell her. We don't know who else might be involved. Before Emma could respond, Martha burst into the office without knocking, something she'd never done before. Alex, she said, her usual composure shattered. They're here, board security and the police. They're saying, she faltered, looking at Emma with confusion. Saying what, Martha? Alex prompted, already moving toward Emma and Lily. They're saying you've been embezzling funds. They have a warrant for your arrest, and they specifically mentioned Ms. Baker as an accomplice. Emma clutched Lily to her chest, a cold wave of terror washing over her. This can't.